Hello, this is a good friend of mine, Lori, who's also a wonderful violinist, and we have worked together for decades, should we say?
Decades, easily decades.
Decades.
Yeah.
So what I think I'd like to do is have you talk about the real basics of the instrument, talk about the range, how it's tuned, and then show us how you play the darn thing.
That sounds like fun. Sure thing. So the instrument has two parts. The bow, which has the hair on one side, and I actually have to put rosin on the bow to get sound to happen if there's no sound. So I will also have to tighten the bow depending on the weather sometimes. If it's really rainy, it'll be dry. So and then the violin itself has the 4 strings, and they're each tuned 5 notes apart, so in fifths. Okay, and when I go to play, I'm going to try to place my bow between the bridge and the fingerboard, and I'm going to try to mostly make it straight. I don't want it to be so crooked that it gets down to where my fingers are. And I'm going to try to hold the bow so that I can do different bow strokes. So a lot of people pay a lot of attention to their bow holds and work on them quite hard. So, and then on the hand side, I'm going to actually not use my thumb. My thumb is going to be on the other side of the instrument. I know cello players sometimes come around and they'll play up high in thumb position. But we don't get to do that. So I have strings down here. I have a G string. And then I can go quite high. I can go all the way from this G to this G to this G to this G, and I bet I could go way high.
Is
way
that a
up
harmonic?
there. No, that's actually a note.
Is that the end of the?
I bet I could go higher.
Wow,
yeah,
up to almost a B.
Go up to that. Yes, you're right. Yeah, almost that one's off the fingerboard for sure. So then I can play with my bow, but I can also pluck it. And the nice thing about the violin is that in the basic first position, all the notes are right here. So if I'm playing and I have my strings being 5 notes apart, well, I can just play up. So it makes really, for a fun time, it's pretty neat to play it like that.
So do violinists purposefully avoid open strings in a lot of literature, depending on what they're playing?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
Because a bluegrass fiddler style,
then that's
they might want to have that E string going. But I've been in orchestra where it's gone both ways for open strings. Sometimes they'll say, yes, please play not this open string, but use another finger. So it's the same sound, but a different timbre, kind of
the timbre
more
changes
mellow.
Drastically,
And then I've been in orchestra when the conductor requests an open string for more power or sound. So I think it does go both ways.
Cool.
Pretty cool. So let's see. There's a lot of ways to use the bow, right, for sound and getting different articulations. So I thought what I could do is demonstrate on something simple like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, which would show maybe the sound on some kind of a tune everyone knows. So the very basic default stroke is called DataSha, and that's where we're just going to go. As smooth as I can, back and forth. And
so the bow never leaves the string.
Correct. It's going to just stay on. And when we see a note written in the music book and there's no marking, there's no dashes, there's no triangles, there's no dots, we'll probably play like that.
DataSha.
Right. Yeah. But if we see maybe a line over it, we might play with a little bit more of like a push at the beginning of the stroke. It would sound a little more like this.
portamento?
It's leading into the portamento,
Okay.
correct. It's still a DataSha because
Good.
we're going separately.
Okay.
But you're right, that would lead right into where I could do that in one bow. So I could come up. And try to make it as smooth as I can coming through there. Yeah.
So that just sort of reminds me, when you see an orchestra, all the bowings are determined, right?
Oh, yes.
And so the concertmaster is in charge of that?
They would be in charge of that. And the conductor would also have input.
Okay.
And I suppose even the composer, because even in more modern times, the
Sure.
composers are very specific with what they want. I think starting around where Mahler
Yeah.
would mark up his music with all kinds of tempos and slurs. And
Awesome.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then you can also play notes together, but make them sound apart. So if we saw some notes with dots and a slur mark, with curved slur, well, then we would try to do this. Which would be a slurred staccato.
Sure. So there's a separation
Yeah.
between each
Yeah,
note.
you can hear that. And then when we do that separately, we would call that more like a martelet stroke.
Okay.
So what we would do is we would take the bow and we would really give a little maybe pinch.
Dig in.
Yeah, and it really gets a lot of
Yeah.
energy into that stick and the string.
Right. So there's a lot of pressure and
It is.
downward pressure on the bow.
Yeah, I'm trying to pinch and then sort of release, but
Yeah.
keep a real sustained sound after that, and then a break before the next one starts again. So yeah, there's a lot that you're trying to do.
Right.
It kind of makes you tired, that stroke, if you keep going with it a long time, for sure. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Are there other on-string
Let's
variations?
see. Well, sure. We can play close to the fingerboard on the string,
okay.
right? So that would be a real, sort of a very gentle sound.
So it's sul tasto.
Yeah, sul tasto, for sure.
And then sul ponticello.
And the cello, yeah, that's like its opposite. And so what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to play on the bridge, but with not a lot of pressure. So it's going to catch a lot of the high overtones in the sound. That's what I'm trying to do.
So it's very wispy
frosty.
and airy. Yeah.
I think so. I think so. And sometimes these bowings are combined. So sometimes you might have sol ponticello, but tremolo. So tremolo is where you shake the bow very quickly. But some composers want to hear this sound where you're shaking a lot.
Those way
yeah.
overtones. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So that kind of sounds neat. It's tricky to keep that consistent. That one's a little bit tricky.
Yeah. Oh, what about harmonics?
Yeah, so there's lots of kinds of harmonics. We have natural harmonics that occur all over the instrument. My favorite way to show the harmonics is to show that you're dividing the string into portions. So here I'm dividing the string. Well, here I'll show you on the E. So I'm dividing the string perfectly in half, and you can tell that because if I play the other
on both
side,
sides, it's the same.
it's
Yeah.
the same note. And I think that works even for this one. So here's the high E.
Yeah.
And I think that works
Yeah.
back there too.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a new bow technique. I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Playing behind the harmonic. So
very awkward.
totally awkward. And then we can actually create a harmonic using our first finger as sort of an anchor. It's the note. On the bass, and then we place the fourth finger lightly, like I would not push the fourth finger down, so that this one will make like an octave higher. So you can play.
Is that one octave? Is it
There's
two?
a two. It might be
It's
two.
2 octaves, right?
It might be two. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because this is two.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
makes
that's
sense.
2 octaves.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It's
Awesome.
definitely the octave interval. And so you could play even Twinkle. So you could play. And
And so that could be combined with a tremolo and
yeah,
other, it'd be.
Yeah. I don't know if you can pluck it. I mean, that would
I
just
don't-
not
no,
work
no.
as well, I don't think.
Yeah.
There's double stop harmonics, but those are just so tricky because you have to be reaching out of position but holding, and then the bow
jeez.
has to be balanced just right. So you'll hear those in the big concertos for sure,
Ah,
but I don't think
yeah.
an orchestral musician would play that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So.
What else is there? There's ricochet.
Oh,
so there's some
ricochet, yeah,
bouncing. So
Yeah.
this is pretty extensive. You can bounce it twice, like bum 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 bum, or you can bounce it 3 times or 4. Right. So
But that's got to be the end of the bow for that to work, right?
I think so. I think so. But we have to adjust the height. How high we're
Yeah.
going to hit from? From the top of the string. So it might sound like. Oops. That would be kind of an
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
And that is super close to the jeté. So the jeté is just kind of like that first.
Yeah.
So when we see this, we're just trying to give that kind of a tap,
Yeah.
maybe not too much sound. A lot of times it's for a section that wants to be quiet and quick and light.
Yeah.
So we'll use that bowing.
Yeah. Cool color.
There. Oh, it's super fun. So then there's a few more with the bow from the string, or from the air, not on the string.
Okay.
So there are, we can throw the bow down from the air, and we essentially have to throw it both directions. So you
Okay.
would play from here. So that gives one kind of sound. And
Yeah. What's that called?
so that would be like a spiccato. Sorry, excuse
Okay,
me,
that's spiccato. Okay.
That would be spiccato, but
Okay.
it would be a slower one at the near the frog.
Okay.
But then a true spiccato would be up here, and that's kind of what you think of when you bounce the bow. So that
yeah.
you would have that would be that sound. Now that can only go so fast, right? I can only play that so fast before I
Before-
can't throw it each direction.
Yeah. So a 64th note run would not work in spiccato.
Not in spiccato, correct. And that's when we move over to sautelé. So technically sautelé is sort of on, the hair is sort of on the string, and the stick is kind of jumping, but it makes a sound like it's off. So that's the sound here, I'll try it on.
Yeah.
Right, so it's
yeah.
definitely a stroke.
Right.
It's not a tremolo, it's not that.
Sure.
But
It's measured and.
it's right. It's got a little bit of a bite to it.
Yeah.
So those are fun to do. Those the quicker ones that are
Yeah.
off the string.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's any other ones that would come up in orchestra playing or come up.
We haven't talked about pizzicato.
Oh yes, that's right. Pizzicato is fun. So the pizzicato, there's lots of kinds, right? There's the kind that the orchestra players don't really like is when you have to pull it from, I don't know if you can see, so you pull it and you slap it.
The Bartok.
Yeah.
The Bartok pits.
Yeah, and it's hard to get there,
Yeah.
and but you can pluck from the air. So if I plucked Twinkle, they say you can use the fingernail. That's a little harder, but it's harder for me to get it. I know. It has a different sound,
Yeah.
kind of harsher.
But you can do those pretty quickly, right?
The nail one would be harder.
Yeah, but
the flesh,
the normal.
I don't know if I ever have done like 2 I don't know if that's ever necessary or called for. I think the major tricky thing about pizzicato passages in orchestra is getting your bow. If you're playing arco, then I have to
get all the way back.
I have to get back. So the bowings might be designed to get the player back with.
So at the end of an up bow, you could then transition a lot easier than if it's the end of a down bow. Then it's like
yeah, that is the favored setup. So for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. There's I think that's
boy, that's most of what I had been thinking.
Oh,
of.
and then you wanted the crazy techniques. Is it Penderecki that you wanted to hear?
Sure.
Some of those. So I was looking them up online, and they're not very loud. You know, they're really maybe an ambiance thing, I think.
Yeah, the colegno, using the wood.
Oh yeah, the wood. That's right. We forgot the wood. That's not too modern. We should do that first before the crazy ones.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's do that.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of players say they don't like to use the stick to make the sound. I don't mind too much unless the conductor keeps asking to hit harder or that they want it louder. So there's that. It's also a little tricky. It's a little bit uncomfortable because if I play here, and again, you can really hear the high. I think you can hear the higher pitches as you hit. So actually, it's kind of fun.
It's a cool sound.
It is, and the bow bounces back into your hand a little, so it kind of feels like a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me particularly too much, but a lot of players don't want to chip anything on the bow.
I've heard of players pulling out a pencil and using a pencil instead of their bow.
Yeah, that would actually be easier, I think, to hit. Yeah, I think I'll remember that next time I have that passage.
Exactly.
I love it. Yeah. So from there, things can get crazier, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one that I hadn't thought of was playing on the bridge, which I took to mean something completely different than what I think is supposed to happen. And so what these guys want you to do is to line your bow up here and play that.
Yeah, actually resonate the bridge itself, not the strings.
Right.
But it's the bridge that you're playing.
Yeah, somehow I didn't think that's what it was going to be. I thought it was somehow on it, that was learning for me. And then the tailpiece, I guess, resonates too. Let's see. I can't really see. Okay. I don't know. I wasn't too convinced, but one of the pieces was they were doing that. Maybe it's low. Wait.
Oh, there.
Maybe you could get. I really have to lean into
growl,
that.
Yeah.
That is kind of a neat growl.
Yeah.
And then they were playing way up here on the.
Oh yeah, above the.
Because that's so lovely.
It's called for occasionally. You see it, you know.
It's true. But the one I had to really practice was the one where they hit with the screw. So you take the screw and you hit on the string. But that's not very loud either. So if I try Twinkle. It was close.
That's it. Yeah.
So apparently, from what I could tell, there's that technique, but also the players can do almost like this was a steel guitar or something, right?
Yes, sure.
And so they can make a pizzicato and kind of glissando it. Oops.
Yeah.
And that was kind of fun because that would be easy to get to as you were playing. You could kind of get to that easily instead of all the other ones.
Yeah, that is really cool.
It was neat. And then there's the one that I always teach all my little kids. Yeah. Which is to chew your violin. Right. So what you do is and this is sometimes called for, this sound is, so I'm rolling the hair between the stick.
It's slapping. Yeah.
It's cracking on and it's echoing. But then I tell them to kind of make it look good, like pretend you're beating your instrument. So yeah,
that's a good one.
It really is. It's quite good. It gets them inspired, I think.
Yeah,
playing their instruments more.
Yeah, that's really
there's so much you can do, isn't there?
Yeah. Now, col sordino.
Yeah, that's a good one too, isn't it?
Yeah. So
Right.
why don't you explain about
So
mutes?
there's mutes and different styles, but for violins, this one's the easiest one. You just are going to put it over. So I'm going to slide, and it's sort of a rubber, and it's going to come up on the bridge, and it's going to make the sound softer maybe.
Yeah,
Or is it okay?
more mellow
So
or
yeah, mellow
something.
sound. So here's a little twinkle with the mute. It sounds quite
Now
broad.
play it with.
Let's take it
regular-
off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it is.
So that's a dramatic tonal difference right there.
It really is. That's cool. Oh, and that's true. There's chords, right?
Oh,
Because
yeah. Yeah.
we can play more than one note at once. So we could do like three notes. If we wanted, we could put more sustain maybe on it there.
Yeah.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Sometimes that occurs in orchestral playing, in a loud, broad piece, and double stops. So sometimes we would play two notes at once. Oh, that wasn't good.
Was there some way?
That was a sort of a minor third. Wait, let's try that. I'll try take two.
Sure.
Yeah, that was much better.
So I was always taught that the larger intervals, like sixths and fifths, are easier to finger than thirds. Is that true? Because you were playing thirds there.
I did some thirds and a
Yeah.
fifth. The
Yeah.
thirds are they're okay. They're okay.
But sixths should be pretty easy
Sixths
too,
are
right?
also lovely. Yeah, those are really pretty
Yeah.
on violin. And those are the common ones I think you would come across
Right.
in orchestral playing.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The ones that are hard are like unisons, when I'm trying to get like a B and a B.
Oh, the oh.
So that's hard. It's hard to
really-
tell. And if you're in a group and you have to do that and you don't know what your neighbor's doing. So those types of things are tricky.
Right.
If they're demanding a non-divisi unison thing. But that's not
Yeah.
common. So
now you also see literature like the Bach on the G string, the Bach.
yeah, that's true.
Was that
there's an air on the G
the
string.
air, and there was there's something, but maybe yeah.
And
but,
then Paganini was a big virtuoso violinist, would write a lot on the G string.
and
yeah.
and so it's really just using that lowest string for all the melody, so you're not
Yeah.
changing. So
Yeah.
and it's sort of a cool
It's
mellow sound as you go
has,
up.
yeah, like the. Kind of way up there,
Yeah.
it does sound different, and that comes along with like the shifting, and all of the shifts you could do, and you would shift to keep a melody on the same string. So if I put Twinkle over here, right? So
Yeah,
let's see,
okay.
what would he be? I had to shift there.
Yeah. So that gets into position playing then, right? So
Correct.
that why don't you explain what that means? Like
Yeah.
open and what third position or fifth position?
Yeah, I like to explain it in terms of maybe even just violin fingering. So if I play on the A string and I play A, B, C sharp, and D, I'm going to be using my first finger, my second finger, and my third finger. So if I decide to play a piece and start and have my first finger be where my third finger was, then that's third position. So
Right.
I can come up here and play up here. and have this be Twinkle in third position. Like that. And then if I wanted to play in fourth position, that'd be where I would have my fourth finger, I would move up.
Where the first finger becomes where the fourth finger
Right,
comes
yeah,
in.
the first finger then becomes like the anchor, or that's the position for that, and then so you could play anywhere
And so
using that idea.
for depending on key and range of things, those positions, are they indicated in the music, or is that something that's determined by the concert master?
Good point.
Or-
Yeah, I think sometimes the concert master would want a shift to be the whole section to be on one string, and
Yeah.
and they would call back and say, "Stay on the A string." They'll pass it back, and so that's
And
good. Yeah.
I know in guitars we use Roman numerals to indicate positions. Is it
Yeah.
similar? It's just like Roman numeral 4 would be fourth position.
Fourth position, true. Sometimes it is confusing because if they wanted us to play all on the G string, they might use a Roman numeral to say G, or they might write Sol G. So
Okay,
every
yeah.
once in a while that can be confused, but yeah, we can play on one string, or we can play in different positions. And that's really fun. And we can shift in different ways too. I don't know if that's similar for
yeah.
the guitar. Like we could shift, let's say if I'm gonna play Twinkle here, right? I could shift to there for the first two notes of Twinkle, but I could do it different ways. I could shift on the note I'm on and get to the next one. Or I could shift and slide into the note on the note I need. So it has a different sound. So the first one being, or they have like a different sound to an interpretation, or
So portamentos,
yeah,
where
that would
that
be,
sort of like easing into a note,
Yeah.
is that indicated, or is that a style that you just understand from this period? I'll play this shift as a
I might
portamento.
slide in. Yeah, that might be. It might be a style thing. Every once in a while, I have seen it written into the music. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Trying to think if there's anything else this can do.
Well, it is the backbone of the orchestra, and so
Yeah.
just percentage-wise of what instruments are playing, strings play the most of any instrument in the orchestra.
They do. Yeah.
So you guys are the workhorses.
I think you're right. I know. You look at our books of music, and we have far more pages than other people. Just
Exactly.
lots of notes.
Well, I think
Lovely.
that's a really good demonstration of all the techniques, and pretty thorough. So,
Yeah. I hope
well,
we got them all.
thanks so much,
Well,
Lori.
thanks for having me.
Really
It's really
appreciate
fun
that.
to be here.